Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a beer, it's time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today I wanted to showcase the performance of the Divine Elementalist that I league started with, which is not a build that I'm necessarily going to recommend at the moment, although it is a build that I've stuck with because it's got a couple of really funny interactions. This is the only build I've ever played that I do a massive amount of weapon swapping on, and I want to just quickly discuss that key interaction first. Obliteration is the first weapon, and you'll notice that it's got the line, enemies you kill have a 20% chance to explode, dealing a quarter of their maximum life as chaos damage. So we have two of those. So that gives us a 40% chance for a chaos explosion. And this will become 50% when I'm able to equip this Megalomaniac, and actually it'll become 70% when I do a moderate respec of the build that I'm planning. And that'll be to fit in 2 Megalomaniacs with unspeakable gifts and a large cluster jewel with it. So that's where I'm planning on going with the build in the medium term. But for the moment we have 40% chance to explode. Why is that important? Well, when an enemy explodes, because we're an Elementalist and we have the Shaper of Flames Ascendancy node, your hits always ignite, and all damage with hits can ignite. This does apply to that chaos damage. And so what you're doing here is you are inflicting staggeringly large chaos damage hits on enemies. 25% of a monster's life is huge. Then those monsters become ignited, and those ignites are then spread by the cluster jewel notable Fan the Flames. This causes quite enormous amounts of ignite proliferation throughout the map. And then while these new enemies, the weaker ones that have been caught on fire, will explode. That will then cause the medium strength enemies to die as well and explode, and basically everything except the tankier rares. So that's the idea. And in theory, it's working reasonably well on Trash. Against bosses, we're doing a weapon swap to Searing Touch, which then is used in conjunction with Wave of Conviction to lower the boss's fire resistance. So, without further ado, let's run a Lighthouse map. Nothing particularly juicy here. This is over in Lyra Athane, which has a couple of things related to heists in it at the moment, and also has a bunch of sextants on it. But these sextants are nothing special. They're just normal ones that add more packs. The extra packs actually make the map easier, not harder, and that's because there's more ability for your explosions to proliferate. Once more, I will say that performance has been really bad for me all league. And it is entirely possible that I will crash here. It's entirely possible that I will die as a result of lag. And of course, it's entirely possible I'll die as a result of a misplay too. So that's lag. That happens when you first enter a map. The first pack of monsters that you kill is terrible. I don't think that there's been any harvests I've done that I haven't died in, because the first time that the harvest spawn, you get that same amount of lag. So this is what it looks like on a ritual. Spoiler warning, this is nuts. So you'll notice that monsters are exploding everywhere. Each monster that explodes sets off a chain reaction, and basically the ignites proliferate and they murder everything in the ritual. It's one of the most powerful things about the character is how well it deals with rituals. Whilst I wouldn't recommend this character in general at the moment, not in its current state, it certainly performs very well when it comes to annihilating entire rituals. Okay, so let's just pick up some rubbish there, and we'll have a look at this Breach. Breaches again. Breaches it does very well. Oh, it's a Chaeula one. So I just ate one of those things to the face that you're not meant to take. The fire volatiles. The reason that I didn't die was because I had the Aegis up, Primal Aegis. That was just bad play that I ate it, but I know that I can get away with that. Actually, this build can feel tanky. It has what I would term burst tankiness. Your raw hit points are pretty low, so you'll see that I got 4,307 hit points with 3,400 mana. And of course Mind Over Matter in there as well. I have Mind Over Matter on the tree at the moment. Probably should use Cloak of Defiance at some point. But the reason that it feels a bit tankier than that would indicate is that on Q I can hit Arcane Cloak, and Arcane Cloak gives a huge burst of temporary hit points, as well as a fair chunk of extra damage. So that's really strong. And additionally, you've got the Aegis just providing you with passive shielding against big elemental hits when you stuff up, like I did earlier. So again, here we go with the ritual. Why don't I just sit here? I'll just run around in circles and see if the explosions I've already triggered will finish the job. I don't think they quite will. They didn't, but they came close. And now again, we're just sort of kiting around, and most of the enemies are dying as a result of the ignites that I'd already set off, proliferating through the use of Fan the Flames, and also through the use of the Chaos Explosions. That makes, of course, Vile Fireball just ridiculous because it one-shots any weak enemy that it hits, and then that causes them to burst into flames and ignite everything around them. Another thing that's great is if you can activate a ritual before the monsters in it, before the ignites pools that you've already got on the ground from ignite proliferations have disappeared. You won't always be able to do that, but when you can, sometimes you can have the first monsters spawning in the ritual just immediately die. So that's the third of the 4 rituals done. I've got to fix that with my loot filter. This is a blueprint in Lyra Arthane that has... it didn't get the 10% proc, unfortunately. That 10% proc is huge when it happens. And you get a fully revealed blueprint. Even if you're not someone that likes heist, you should give those a thought, because just running those grand heists that you get from that is really lucrative. So here's Vile Fireball doing what Vile Fireball does. Now I'm going to proc this one, and hopefully the monsters will start spawning already onto the proliferated ignites, and we'll get some carnage. But then again, Vile Fireball's back, so we don't need to wait. So this looks like it's going well at the moment. And this build is pretty solid when it comes to clearing. The problems that it has is when it gets to heavier bossing. It's perfectly serviceable when it comes to just killing normal bosses, like the boss of the current map, but it is much weaker when it comes to harder bosses. Okay, so this is talismans. Talismans are so good sometimes at the moment. This one is excellent. In fact, I'm already using a talisman with anointed flesh on it, so I knew what that did. 5% all res and 1% max res is solid. This would once have been legitimately a mirror tier item. A very long time ago in the game's history. It's certainly nothing like that now, but that is a legitimately solid item, and something that if anyone is searching for those things, they will be very happy to find from me in trade. But they've got to search for the right thing, otherwise they're never going to get it. Now we're going to take one of these stacks of Chaos Orbs. I've stopped deferring small stuff now. I'm just not sure if that's worth anything or not, so I am going to defer that once. Oh, no, I can't now. Oh well. I don't think it is. 6-node bleed with... I think it's solid, but it would need to be eye level 84 to be good. And you don't get eye level 84 ones off them. So the reason that was corrupted, because I'm in Lyra Arthane at the moment, the reason it was corrupted is because it had a a sextant causing it to be corrupted. There was an interaction where the Maven mod that caused those things to be corrupted as well. They were stacking in a really ridiculous way. Wasn't actually beneficial to use. Although it was hilariously funny the first time you saw it. Okay, so this is a fight where there's a bunch of bosses, of which one has a lot more hit points than the rest. And the strategy for a fight like that on this build is to start with the encounter, start the encounter out with your obliterations, then deal with as much as you can. Obviously, respect the boss's mechanics. You don't want to get caught up in that constipated explosion there. And now we're just dealing with this boss, just running around and using a decoy totem, basically, because decoy totem is OP. Has been for a long time. Okay, so that gives you a sense as to what the build is like on a normal map. It's what I would term serviceable at endgame without being good. In terms of the gear that I'm using, so I am mostly using pretty cheap gear. A Cirrus Helm with Divine Ire damages 2 nearby enemies with a perfect Divine roll. That cost me 1.5 Exiles. I'm using 2 Obliterations. These are basically free. You want the 15% of physical damage as extra chaos. That's a sliding scale roll. Getting them with that mod perfect is usually about 5 chaos in a trade league. These are also actually pretty accessible in a solo self-found, whereas this with the relevant enchant is not. I'm using Skin of the Lords. This is because it happened to have phase acrobatics. I was just looking at triple blue, double green, single red chess pieces, and I saw phase acrobatics on this, and I thought, you know what? I'm dying a lot. I'm going to give that a shot. It's okay. And everything else, these are life and resist, life and resist, life and resist, and they're all really low quality. These gloves are an interesting story. I bought a better set of gloves, and then I thought, you know what? I'm just going to Varl the old ones, and then hit curse enemies with ally weakness on hit. And I was like, you know what? These are now my better gloves. This I picked up because I badly needed dexterity. I need to get rid of that physical damage to attacks, remove that with Harvest, and then add on life. Adding on life will probably be done with Harvest as well. But I do have 14 life gain for each enemy hit by your spells. That is a godsend with Divine Ire. Divine Ire really, 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 really needs that. I don't have a Cinder Swallow Urn yet. That's pure laziness. In terms of other good items, the only other thing that I've got that's genuinely good is my Watcher's Eye. And it's not top tier or anything, but it's pretty solid. If I can find the stupid thing, where's my little Watcher's Eye? That's not you. You're not a Watcher's Eye. You're a Watcher's Eye. That's what we're looking for. So this one has 25 life for each enemy hit while affected by Vitality. This, again, is a godsend. This keeps me alive when I'm taking heavy damage, and gain 9% of maximum mana as extra energy shield while affected by Clarity. This combination, I paid 8 Exalts for this duel. In previous leagues, I think it would have been 20, but there's a bunch of things in the Uncharted Realms section of the Atlas that makes Watcher's Eyes more common, and it's pretty strong. It's what the build needed. Now, in terms of other things... Oh, and the other thing I've got is Unnatural Instinct. And I got quite lucky getting Corrupting Blood immunity on that. The damage penetrates 1% fire resistance might sound amazing, but it actually doesn't do anything. For Ignites, Ignites aren't affected by Elemental Penetration. As my cluster jewels, they're currently terrible. This is a problem solver. It has dexterity on it. I needed dexterity badly. And this is just fan the flames with nothing else. So basically, these cluster jewels are rubbish at the moment. And what I am planning to do there is upgrade them with Megalomaniacs. I'm going to get a large cluster jewel that has the Chaos Explosion mod Unspeakable Gifts on it. And then I'm going to get 2 Megalomaniacs, one of which I already own. Megalomaniac with Fan the Flames, Unspeakable Gifts, and a wasted stat, Ancestral Inspiration. The other one I'm going to get is a Megalomaniac with Unspeakable Gifts and Blowback, and then whatever in the third slot. That will be a tremendous upgrade to the build. And the idea that I'm looking for, what I really want is to get rid of Obliterations. I want to be in a situation where I can get the effective Obliterations from cluster jewels, so that I can then use something more DPS oriented. Lastly, I don't think I want to stick with the Searing Touch. I don't think I want to stick with Divine Ire. I think I want to replace it with Flame Blast. But that's something that will be a more thoroughgoing change. It would mean I would no longer need the same Watcher's Eye. That's all I've really got on this. Do I recommend this build? Not really, but it's good enough, but it's not really performing overwhelmingly well. It's getting the job done. It's certainly not something that I would feel confident taking into even one of the middle tier difficulty Maven invitations, far less taking it into the hidden. Not the hidden, the feared. If you've got comments or questions, fire away below though. Otherwise, I'm going to get back to farming. I'm going to try and find that person that has the Megalomaniac that I want to buy for 10x and see if I can get that off them. And I'm also going to try a couple of other silly things. But yeah, fire away with questions and I'll see you around.